My name is Evelyn Hart. For 14 months, I worked in silence on a technology that could reshape energy management forever. A predictive optimization system called CorePulse, designed to anticipate usage fluctuations in power grids before they happened, rerouting flow in milliseconds to avoid blackouts and waste. I developed the concept during grad school, but refined it while working at Solent Systems, a smart energy tech company in Denver. I believed they'd give me the freedom to bring this to life. I was wrong. Julian Crane was my direct manager, smooth, respected, and always one step ahead, politically. When I presented the early stages of CorePulse, he acted supportive, nodding with practiced enthusiasm. "This is next-gen thinking, Evelyn. Let's take it slow and perfect the model," he said. What I didn't realize then was that he'd already begun positioning the system as his innovation in meetings I wasn't invited to. The code was mine. The architecture was mine. But the credit, that was disappearing fast. 3 weeks ago, I finalized a critical update to CorePulse that allowed it to predict failure risks 5 times faster than existing systems. I sent the breakthrough to Julian first, as protocol dictated. The next morning, I was removed from the project completely. No explanation, just an email from HR stating that CorePulse was being transferred to a new team, and my focus should return to other tasks. My access to the repository? Revoked. I confronted Julian privately, but he was already wearing his executive mask. "Evelyn," he said, feigning concern, "the higher-ups just feel your energy is better spent elsewhere. Trust me, I fought for you." The lie was effortless. He didn't fight for me, he stole from me, and then locked me out. He even had the nerve to schedule a company-wide meeting for Monday to unveil Solens's latest proprietary breakthrough in smart energy tech. My breakthrough. I went home that night shaking with rage. But I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't quit. Instead, I opened my private terminal, the one Julian didn't know existed. Months earlier, I'd sensed something off. Julian asking too many questions, requesting presentations without formal record. So I had mirrored CorePulse's core development logs on a separate, encrypted drive. Not just the code, but every line of contribution, every access point, every version history, proof. And I had something else too. A dormant protocol embedded deep inside CorePulse, a silent guardian that none I could activate. Julian thought he stole the crown jewel, but he never realized I had locked the vault from the inside. By Monday morning, the mood at Solent Systems was electric. Julian walked into the conference hall like a conquering hero, wearing a navy blazer and that confident smirk he reserved for board presentations. Executives from across the company gathered, eager to witness the official unveiling of CorePulse. I sat in the back, silent and unnoticed, just another employee behind a cup of burnt coffee. Julian didn't even acknowledge me as he took the stage. "Today marks a turning point in energy sustainability," he began, clicking through slides of the system I had built from nothing. He called it his brainchild, claimed he had personally overseen its development. Watching him lie with such ease would have crushed me a few months ago. But now I was watching for the exact moment my trap would activate. 10 minutes into the demo, the system did what it was designed to do. It began its predictive analysis mapping the simulated energy grid. But then, the screen froze. Error messages flickered. Alerts began surfacing. Not external threats, but internal integrity failures. Unauthorized source code detected. Developer mismatch. System locked. A hush fell over the room. Julian panicked. "Give it a moment, folks," he laughed nervously, motioning to the IT guy in the back. "Just a small glitch." But it wasn't. CorePulse had initiated a lockdown sequence I had quietly named Protocol Echo. The AI didn't just shut down, it compiled a complete audit of the system's code origin, including metadata, timestamps, and every unauthorized access logged in Julian's credentials, all set to deliver, via email, to every executive in that room. I slipped out before the chaos erupted. By the time I reached my desk, my company inbox was already buzzing. One executive had replied, "Who the hell is Evelyn Hart and why is every line of this code tagged with her credentials?" Another simply wrote, "We need to talk, immediately." I knew I had them. But Julian wasn't finished yet. That afternoon, he requested a private meeting. "Urgent," he said. We met in a soundproof office on the top floor. The walls were glass, but the tension inside was ironclad. He dropped the charm act completely. "What did you do?" he snapped, pacing. "You embedded sabotage into the system?" I didn't flinch. It's not sabotage, I said quietly. It's proof of authorship. I designed Corpulse to recognize threats. That includes internal theft. It did exactly what it was meant to. He stopped, glaring at me. Do you have any idea what you've done? You've jeopardized everything. I leaned forward slowly. You jeopardized it when you decided to steal something you didn't build. You should have known better, Julian. Corpulse learns from patterns, and it learned yours a long time ago. His eyes narrowed, dark with fury. What do you want? I smiled faintly. That depends on how honest you're ready to be. Julian leaned back in his chair, his polished exterior crumbling piece by piece. For the first time, I saw it, the fear. Not just of being caught, but of losing everything he had built atop lies. He tried to play it off with a smirk, but his fingers trembled as he tapped them against the table. You can't win this, he muttered, his voice quieter now. You don't have the power. I calmly reached into my bag and pulled out a hard drive, matte black, unlabeled. I placed it on the table between us. This contains every single version of Corpulse from day one, I said, with secure timestamps, contributor signatures, and mirrored logs. The backups were made before you ever accessed the project. It's a complete forensic trail and it's admissible. His face dropped, jaw tightening, as he stared at the drive like it might explode. He knew exactly what that meant. If it reached legal, if it reached the press, he wouldn't just lose his job, he'd be blacklisted. Sued, laughed out of the tech industry. I watched the weight of it land on him like bricks on his chest. Why now? He finally asked. Why didn't you report this earlier? I hesitated, then answered truthfully. Because I believed in Corpulse more than I hated you. I didn't want to destroy the company, Julian. I wanted the system to change the world. But I also wasn't going to let someone else steal it and ruin it from the inside. He exhaled, a breath that shook with resignation. What do you want in exchange for that drive? It was a moment I had envisioned 1,000 times, but now that it was here, I wanted more than revenge. I wanted control. I want full creative ownership of Corpulse, public acknowledgement as its founder, and a promotion to Director of Emerging Technologies. I want your resignation letter on my desk by Friday, and I want a signed statement admitting your actions to be kept sealed unless you violate our agreement. Julian's face contorted with silent fury, but there was no move left for him to play. I had him, and he knew it. He stood slowly and stared out the glass wall behind me, the Denver skyline glowing in the distance. You planned all this, he whispered. I stood too, picking up the black drive. No, I replied softly, I prepared for it. By Friday morning, the office buzz had shifted. Whispers flowed faster than emails. Julian hadn't been seen in 2 days. His name was quietly removed from the internal Corpulse Slack channel. I didn't announce what had happened. I didn't need to. The system he tried to hijack had spoken for itself, and behind closed doors, the executive team was moving fast to protect their image and stabilize investor confidence. At 8:47 a.m., a company-wide email landed. We are announcing the promotion of Evelyn Hart to Director of Emerging Technologies, effective immediately. Evelyn has been instrumental in the development of our flagship system, Corpulse, and her leadership will guide its future deployments. It was sterile, clean, and clinical, but it was mine. No mention of Julian, no mention of betrayal, just the first thread of a reputation being slowly unspooled. Later that afternoon, a folded envelope appeared on my desk. Inside was Julian's resignation letter, dated, signed, and quietly compliant. Attached was a sealed statement, admitting he had misrepresented authorship on proprietary intellectual property and relinquishing all claims to Corpulse. The weight of it in my hand wasn't satisfaction exactly, it was something deeper, validation. After months of watching him walk over people, spin stories, and manipulate the system, the truth was now undeniable. But power reveals more than weakness ever can. As my status in the company grew, so did the attention. I received congratulations from people I hadn't spoken to in months. Department heads started looping me in on major initiatives. Suddenly, I was being invited to dinners, meetings, panels, not because they valued me, but because they wanted to be associated with what Corpulse had become. A rising star has gravity, and I could feel it pulling everyone in. Still, I stayed quiet. I worked longer hours than ever, refining the AI's ethical protocols, making sure no one could abuse it the way Julian tried. Corpulse didn't just belong to me, it carried my values now. Every future deployment would include transparency logs, misuse detection, and internal ethics reporting. The very thing Julian triggered in that fateful demo would now protect others like me from future betrayals. Then came the call I wasn't expecting, a rival company, Oriza Innovations, requesting a private meeting. The voice on the line was calm but curious. "We heard you handled a situation elegantly. Would you be open to a conversation?" I didn't answer right away, because this was no longer just about revenge. It was about rewriting the rules entirely. The meeting with Oriza Innovations was held in a private conference suite overlooking the San Francisco Bay. Clean, modern, quiet. The kind of place where billion-dollar decisions are made behind soundproof glass. I had flown in the night before, the invitation marked as urgent and confidential. I didn't bring any code. I didn't bring the hard drive. I brought myself, and that was more than enough. Across the table sat Vera Lang, Oriza's chief technology officer, known for being sharp, decisive, and notoriously hard to read. She studied me for a long moment before speaking. "We've followed the CorePulse project since its initial patent filing, but what happened inside Solent Systems, that wasn't just innovation, it was survival." I nodded cautiously, unsure where she was heading. "You outmaneuvered a predator from within," she continued. "And in doing so, you created something more than tech. You built a framework for protecting intellectual property through AI. That alone has implications far beyond energy management." She slid a folder toward me, real paper, thick with intent. A joint venture proposal. Oriza wanted to partner. Expand CorePulse's architecture into medical systems, logistics, even governmental infrastructure. They wanted me at the helm, with majority voting rights. "We're prepared to acquire partial licensing and offer you a founding seat on the new ethics division," Vera said plainly. "We're not just betting on your technology, we're betting on you." I took the folder, not saying a word. For a moment, I just stared out the glass wall at the golden light pouring over the water. I thought about Julian, about the cold silence of being underestimated, about the nights I coded in my cramped apartment while everyone else was at happy hour. This was what vindication looked like. It didn't come with fireworks, it came with leverage. Back at Solance, the news of my meeting spread like wildfire. The board called an emergency session. I received 5 messages from the CEO's office in a single hour. I responded only once: "Let's talk equity distribution." And that night, for the first time in months, I slept without dreams. The fight was almost over, but the final move, the real checkmate, hadn't been played yet. That was coming next. I returned to Solent Systems, not as an employee, not as a pawn in their machine, but as a storm they never saw coming. The boardroom was packed with executives, their smiles tight, eyes scanning me like a puzzle they couldn't quite solve. Their panic was veiled behind business pleasantries. They'd heard about Oriza's offer. They knew I now had options, leverage, and worst of all, proof. The CEO, Martin Ashford, a man who always kept himself conveniently above the fray, leaned forward. "Evelyn, we want to make this right. Your role in CorePulse is undeniable. We're proposing a full rewrite of the ownership structure, 45% equity, creator title, and a permanent seat on the board." Date. I didn't speak right away. I let the silence work for me, watched them squirm under the weight of what they thought was a generous offer. "CorePulse doesn't just belong to me," I said finally. "It is me, and 45% of myself isn't enough. Not after what I've built, not after what I protected." I reached into my bag and pulled out a sleek folder, the contract from Oriza. "Here's what I've already been offered: 60% control in a multi-sector expansion, a founding seat on an international ethical tech council, and full creative autonomy." They didn't need to be convinced I mattered. They came to me because they knew I did. Martin swallowed hard. The other executives looked between each other, uncertain whether to fight or fold. "What are you proposing?" he asked, voice more cautious now. "I'll stay," I said slowly, "but only on my terms. I want 60% ownership of the CorePulse patents, full recognition as its sole creator, an annual innovation grant to support underrepresented engineers, and Julian Crane's severance, returned and donated to that fund." Someone scoffed. Another started to object, but Martin raised his hand. He looked at me, really looked this time, and realized he wasn't dealing with a rebellious developer anymore. I was the future they needed more than they feared. "Done," he said. And just like that, the game ended. I walked out of that room with everything they once tried to take. Not because I screamed the loudest, not because I threatened to burn it all down, but because I understood something they never did. Silence can be a weapon. Strategy can be louder than rage. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's ownership. Months later, Corpulse rolled out globally. It's now protecting power grids in 12 countries integrated with smart cities, and has already stopped 3 major outages. Julian, last I heard, he tried to apply at a mid-tier consultancy. His name no longer opens doors. Mine does. At the public unveiling of our latest expansion, a young engineer came up to me and asked, "How did you not lose hope when they tried to erase you?" I smiled. "They couldn't erase me," I said, "because I never gave them the pen." And that's the truth. If you've ever been betrayed, manipulated, or cast aside, remember this: you don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to fight dirty to win. Build your armor with your silence. Embed your power in the very thing they think they control. And when the time comes, let them realize too late. You were never the prey. You were the trap.